Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. Whole sports all plays.
What is going on, everybody? This is Mike Hughes, and I'm sitting here with the great, the legend himself, the legendary man himself, who almost had the finals predicted. Victor, how are you, Coach?
Man, I'm good, man. Good, man. Sit out here in New York, man, enjoying it. On break right now before we head back out to these streets of New York.
My man's on vacation, still doing work, never stops, never quits. But we do have a conversation today that somewhat ties into New York. I think Coach is out there getting the scoop right now, talking to all the fans, talking to the New York Knicks Association. He told his girl they were on vacation, but really he's undercover right now for the ASAP Network, getting the scoop. Today we're talking about a questionable superstar or /star, depending on how you look at it. Coach and I will break that down in a little bit. Donovan Mitchell, obviously, Coach, you heard the news. He's very disgruntled about Quinn Snyder and Rudy Gobert and everything going on in Utah right now. For you, just your first take on that, how did you feel about Donovan Mitchell's comments about him not really knowing where he stands with the organization right now?
Well, I mean, it's just him and the beef between Rudy. Like they've been beefing for the past 2.5 years, and no one really stepped in and say, "Hey, here's our plan. Here's what we're doing," and they're pretty much just riding with it because like Donovan's still on his rookie contract, so it's kind of like one of those things is, hey, they're not giving enough information. But that's Utah. Utah's always known for not really saying too much. They just go with the flow. They really don't pub their players like they should. I think that's one of the things why they kind of got D Wade to come and talk to him and say, hey, here's how it works, here's the style and everything else, and teach him.
Right, 100%. And, we're having these conversations right now. Today's episode obviously is going to be very Donovan Mitchell heavy. We're going to be talking about potential trade rumors, trade packages that could transpire within the next couple months over the summer, because I cannot wait for these finals to be over. I do not like either team. I have $100 bet right now. Coach, don't kill me. I made it weeks ago. Had a $100 bet that Klay Thompson would win Finals MVP, and I'm just waiting for DraftKings to take my money. It's definitely not happening anytime.
Why'd you pick Klay?
Well, listen. So here's what happened. I was at work, and all these dudes were talking this mess about Klay Thompson. They were talking mad mess about Klay Thompson, and that's my guy. That's always been my guy. I love the defense. I love who he is. He's the Splash Brother, third greatest shooter of all time. I don't care what anybody says. And I truly do think that it was going to come out. I felt like he was waiting for the finals. I felt like he was, slowly getting back into his groove. And I was like, you know what? I'm tired of y'all talking this mess. So my boy bet on Marcus Smart and I bet on Klay Thompson. And honestly, I think I had the better of the two. I had the better of the two.
He really thought Marcus Smart was going to be MVP?
Oh, 100%. And you know what, Coach? I will say this. I know I'm wrong, but at least I wasn't that wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I had a shooter shot. I had a shot in the dark. That it was possible.
This goes back to the subject of star power and superstars. Mm-hmm. Marcus Smart is a star. He's a star. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. And even if you look at Klay, I think Klay dropped down to a star just for the fact that he's been out 2 years. I think next year, after he have a whole full year under his belt with his legs and everything, he'll be a lot better coming in the next year.
Yeah.
But when you NBA Finals, I could have told you this. It's going to be Steph, Tatum, and maybe Brown if he has like the hell of a game. Because even if you go back when Cleveland and Golden State played, when Ron lost, he still was picked second.
Yeah,
MVP votes.
And honestly, he should have won that. And
100%.
Like he should have been, and it's so tricky too. Like we're getting off topic, but it's a real conversation. I did feel like in that 2016 season, when Andre Iguodala won it, and they showed the stat lines of what he held LeBron to was like what 36, 9, and 6. It was like and he's holding this Finals MVP trophy, and I was kind of sitting there, and to your point too, like the Larry Bird Award trophy, I truly did feel like Jaylen Brown deserved that award because he was the most consistent throughout that 7-game series. You have Jason Tatum had 2 games where he had 10
Yes,
points. And they gave it to him
but
because he's the face of the franchise.
if you watch, even now we go to present day. When Golden State wins, what happened to Jason Tatum?
Right.
When Golden State loses, Steph, where were you in the fourth quarter? Or why
Mm-hmm.
those are the questions because those are the superstars.
Right.
Those are the guys that no matter what, they're going to get the scrutiny. Hey, it's your fault regardless. Nobody cares about what Marcus Smart does. Marcus
Right.
Smart goes 0 points, he's go 20 points. At the end of the day, they still going to say, hey, Tatum, just look what you did. Because at the end of the game, who they interview? Tatum.
Right.
Tatum, how did you feel about it? Hey, Tatum, did you know this and this and that?
100%. And it's one of those things, though, Coach. You got to give it to me. Once they gave it to Iguodala, I was like, all right, maybe I will take a bet on Clay just because, Curry's been to 6 of these things and he don't got a single one. So I said, maybe maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll take a shot at it. He already won the Western Conference Finals MVP. Maybe it's Clay's time to shine. He dropped 25 in game 3, so we'll see what happens. He also didn't win game 3 though, so it doesn't really matter. But Coach, to get back onto the topic, a team that hasn't seen the playoffs in a very long time because they were bounced very early. Donovan Mitchell's situation right now, and you and I were talking about it. Your team, obviously, the Miami Heat. My team, unfortunately, being the Chicago Bulls. We have many conversations to have today, but we're going to start it off. Obviously, the first trade rumor going around, and one of the favorites, at least for me and a lot of others, right now is Donovan Mitchell going to the Miami Heat. And there's a lot of different trade packages. There's a lot of different conversations of what that might endure. But the big one, the man himself, the man on Jack Harlow's tour, the man who's sipping more Henny and doing more questionable things than being on the basketball court, Tyler Hero, the man from Wisconsin himself, is surrounded by these packages. How do you feel as a Heat fan knowing that you might be able to get a potential superstar, only 25 years old, for Tyler Hero and maybe a Duncan Robinson type role player?
I'll take it. And you know what? I'll throw you Kyle Lowry in there too. Look, I'll throw you 3 guys in there. We'll take it. And look, and you want a draft pick? You can take our first round draft pick. Because one thing we do in Miami, we do a great job of scouting. Because half the team is either second round or free agent picks anyway.
And you're stealing Strauss, you're stealing all these other cats from the Celtics and others. But for you, we kind of talked about it, before we started this, but can you kind of break it down on where you think it all fell for Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, especially after getting that payday after the finals in 2020?
Well, I think one thing when you look at Miami, you got Eric Spoelstra, you got Pat Riley. They're all about the numbers. Like They look at the numbers, they look at the situations. They're big on numbers, analytical. Especially Eric Spoelstra, because that's how he got it. He worked his way up to where he is right now. So having Duncan Robinson in, he gives you points, but he also gives you points. Either way, he'll score 20, but he's gonna give up 20. So it's kind of like one of those things. Like why keep you in when you can't stop anybody? Because if you notice, when even Hero too, a lot of the times they went to a zone a lot when they're in the games because they were liabilities. Like I said, and Hero, he's flashy. He's the great right hope. He's one of those guys. He's American-born, white basketball player. They got a little style. His homeboy wrote a song about him. So he everybody wants to be like him right now. And that's the thing. But other than that, he hasn't shown me anything in the playoffs.
Right.
There's been plenty of times I hate it because he thinks he's the man once he comes in off the bench. So he jacks up a lot of stuff and he makes bad decisions. Right. So I would give you both of them. And Larry, like I said from the beginning, Kyle Lowry, he's a good third, fourth player on the team. But he was hurt this year and we made it this far without you. So technically, I'm like, hey, just go ahead and give them, and we can just ride with it.
100%. 100%. You could probably sniff around a Derrick Rose or something else. You could fish somebody out of their horrible situation to be able to fix that guard opportunity once you lose Tyler and Dunk, and potentially Kyle. But for you, you look at Donovan Mitchell, obviously, from 2025 to 2026, that's when he's going to enter as a free agent. Right now, he's on a $163 million deal for 5 years. He's going to be making somewhere. Yeah.
We're not worried about that.
No, it's not a big deal. I'm just saying it's a
Oh,
very for someone like Donovan, I feel like it's a very relatively cheap deal. You're making 30 to 37 million dollars a year for someone of his caliber, only being 25, locked up for the next few years. Would you? And it's a very hot take, and I know you're a very Miami Heat guy. And I mean that in the highest of respect because I love Miami Heat fans. When you hear the Dwayne Wade comparisons to the Spider, do you think there's anything that holds truth when you watch Donovan Mitchell's game to him being that Dwayne Wade kind of controlling of South Bend once he comes?
yes. No. Nah, man, it's Jimmy's. It's Jimmy's team. Don't get me wrong. Like he has to. But the thing about it is, if he comes, that's a good duel. That's a good tandem that can work real well. I mean, another thing about it too is about getting Kyle Lowry. You get Kyle Lowry out, you still got Victor
Mm.
also that can take the role. Like we have depth. It's not because I mean
Yeah,
they're all
deepest in my opinion, it was the deepest team in the NBA.
yes because you can take the backup is no different from Kyle Lowry was no different from the backup point guard. Like
Right.
there wasn't a difference. Like the only one was just like I said was Jimmy Butler because he gives you more on defense. But the thing about Jimmy Butler is that everybody knows. I mean, he's in that category with Kyrie and AD. They're hurt. They're gonna miss. They're gonna miss half the season. So, but having somebody like Mitchell, because now he can have. It's Utah, man. Nobody really watches Utah play
Right.
basketball. No one pubs Utah like that. I mean, other than Utah is only where I see Utah jerseys. But I
Hmm.
guarantee anywhere else you see a Donovan. If he's in a Miami jersey, you're gonna see it out and about
Right.
because they're gonna put their guys out there. I mean, it's Miami. It's no state taxes, so you get more money in your pocket. But I love that trade.
Right. And it's also one of those things too, obviously defensively he's not as solidified as Rudy Gobert because I'm not huge on Rudy Gobert on defense anyways. Back in the day, of course, a few years ago, of course, but as of now, I've watched Rudy get beat just quite a few times, especially by the one we call Westbrook. I watched Russell Westbrook give him the work this season. So if that's going down, I don't even want to talk about it. But when you look at Bam Adebayo offensively, I feel like here's the thing about Donovan that and he gets such a knock on is they say he's not a passer. I watched Utah games. I watched this man specifically for Donovan. Coach, you know how I am. I don't just watch people to watch people. Like I don't give a damn about the Utah Jazz, but I watch for Donovan Mitchell. The kid passes the ball. And if you look at the statistics, the only person he doesn't pass to is Rudy Gobert, and rightfully so. Rudy gets paid $205 million to average 10 points a game. And it's that conversation with Bam Adebayo. I feel like that opens up the floor already. You got Donovan, who's averaging, 5 to 6 assists a game. You give him all these other cats. You give him Jimmy. You give him Kyle. You give him Bam. You give him all these other dudes on the team. I mean, you're looking at a guy who could average close to a double-double. Maybe not close, but somewhere around 7 to 8 assists a game for Donovan right now, and you and I have talked about it a lot, what makes a superstar. And I wanted to ask you right off the bat, just because Donovan's a tricky situation to me where I feel like, same as Luka, you are qualified as a superstar because you look at that team without Donovan Mitchell, without Luka Doncic, without John Morant. What is that team? You look at Donovan Mitchell right now, comes into the league in 2017, averaging 20, now is averaging 25 points for 3 years consistently. How would you view Donovan Mitchell? Is he in that superstar tier yet that just
No,
hasn't gotten enough love?
no, he's a star. Donovan's a star, and and Luca is a different situation just because he's overseas, so he's been playing for a long time. But I still put Donovan. He's a star because I have to see those moments in the playoffs where you do those things. But then when you see, like you said earlier, man, when you talk about his assists, who are you passing the ball to?
Exactly. Joe
Like,
Ingles, Rudy
like,
Gobert.
like that's the thing. When people kill me and they say, well, he's not a shooter or he's not this and he's not that or he don't play defense. Look where you're at.
Right.
Like you don't have to really play too much defense because you're supposed to have the defensive player of the year protecting the rim.
Right.
So if you get by me, that's okay because that's who it is. But I put him in the star range. He has the potential to be a superstar. I think a lot of it has to do, like I said, it's in Utah, man.
Right.
I haven't really Only playoffs because I stay in the South. We
Right.
watch.
Yeah, I'm in the Midwest. I got no business watching Utah games. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
how quickly do you think when he enters Miami, if he does enter Miami, would he get that superstar category
they gotta
from the
get to
league at least?
they gotta get to the finals.
You think?
They have to get to the finals because you go back and you look like Jason Tatum right now. Jason Tatum is knocking on that door for superstar because he's in the NBA Finals and they're up 2-1. Like you're knocking on that door because this is what everybody expected from you. And I said,
Right.
if he goes to Miami and they lose our second round, ain't no different from where they was.
Right.
Worse than what they was last year. So
100%.
it's one of those things to me because it's levels. When you go to when you make it to the Western Conference Finals, Eastern Conference Finals, and then when you make it to the championship, like your whole game and everything evolved. Now you've been there. Now you understand what it takes to get there. Now you know if I work on this more, I can take it to a whole new level.
Right.
And that's
100%.
and that's one of the things where we start having those conversations because let's just be honest. Next year, whoever wins the championship, next year Boston's going to be in the conversation of championship.
Right.
They weren't at the beginning of this year.
No. I wouldn't even say at the middle of the season at All-Star break they weren't even in the conversation.
Yeah, because and that's where I truly feel that's where you look at it and you say, okay, that's some superstar level stuff. If we talk about the Lakers, the reason why is because of who? LeBron James, because he's a superstar, and those are the conversations that you have. You take Golden State, Steph Curry, them because he's a superstar, and you flip it over the Bucks because they have a superstar. Like those are the conversations of why you say, hey, this is why they make it to the championship. So that's to me where it's that superstar level because your conversations are now championship. It's not, hey guys, let's make it to the playoffs. Because as a Bulls fan, let me ask you this. Was this a winning season?
I think it was a winning season just because of what we were trying to do. But there's levels to winning seasons. I think when you look at what the Miami Heat view as a winning season right now is to win an NBA Finals. Because obviously in 2020, I think if I would have asked Coach Victor Bennett, was this a winning season? You would have said, yeah, it's a very young team. You know, we made it to the finals. But now it's that conversation of, no, now we need to win the finals. For the Chicago Bulls, it was, okay, we got all these pieces. We got all these contracts. Now we need to see if they could play together. You know, we're first in the East. We win over 40 games. You lose to the former defending champs, you know, major injuries, not even mad about it. It was a good season. Now, next year, if we're bouncing the first round again, depending on who's even going to be on this team, because that's the situation as a Chicago Bulls fan, it's always a different roster. But that's a different conversation.
Yeah,
but it'll be a disappointing season. You know, the tier to me next season is Eastern Conference Finals. I'm not going to say finals because this team doesn't have experience like that enough. You know, the only experience they have is getting bounced in the first round. So I want to see them elevate a little bit more. But I think, you know, there's levels to what is a winning season. For Utah, Western Conference Finals, that's a winning season, you know, but not everybody's made for the finals. But Coach, let me ask you this. You know, we're talking about teams that are made for it or not made for it. And we're talking about the Chicago Bulls right now. Zach LaVine in a situation where I don't know what's to be true and what's not. You know, we have per The Athletic, per ESPN, per Stephen A. Smith's mouth, whatever that, you know, verification is for you, everybody listening. It is what it is. Some people think that means nothing. Some people think that means everything when it comes to Stephen A. Smith. But take it with a grain of salt. Zach LaVine is frustrated nonetheless. You know, he wants that supermax. He wants that max deal. For you right now, looking at a Donovan Mitchell potential sign and trade, maybe a Kobe White bringing in or the 18th overall pick, do you think that's realistic right now for the Chicago Bulls to bring in a 25-year-old, knowing Zach LaVine's 28, just had a second knee surgery on the knee that he's torn his ACL in?
Yes, but it'll even out for the Utah. Like Utah has to get something back in return, and regardless. So when you look at that, I think that'll be perfect for the Bulls because you basically got a younger, healthier LaVine with much of a better shot.
And I think he's made for that moment. If you ask me, I think Donovan's made for the moment. I think Zach kind of defers to DeMar, whereas Donovan's going to shoot that ball.
Yes, but that was my thing. Even with LaVine, LaVine left. He didn't get traded to the Bulls. He left Orlando. If that was the case, Orlando was LaVine. When LaVine was Orlando.
Nah, LaVine was from Minnesota. Got traded for Jimmy.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. My bad.
Yes,
Wrong
sir.
guy.
It's all
I'm
good.
all over the place. Yeah. So my biggest thing, like, I know you're a Bulls fan. I know you're a Bulls fan. And you talked about Levine, Rosen's gonna give you just enough to look good, but
Right.
they're not gonna give you over top to win games and make it to the next round in the playoffs.
Mm,
They can get you there, but I don't think they won't win. They won't get out of the first round.
right.
So if
Now,
I was
does
them,
does Donovan do that for you though? You think Donovan
yes,
takes you over the hump?
I think he does for the simple fact of the matter because he kind of doesn't care. Like even if you watched him in Utah, like he'll score the 45, 50 points a game just
Mm,
because now that you give him somebody like you give him Caruso, you give him Ball, you give him guys that can actually shoot a little bit. And guess what? Now he knows when to turn it on, when to turn it off.
right.
And again, like I said, and like I said, Rosie, they can kind of create their own shots. You go back to Utah, they don't have anybody that legitimately can create their own shot.
Right.
It was all right, Mitchell, take over, kick it out if you can. If not, jump over
Right.
everybody.
That second best player on Utah wasn't even on the floor with Donovan Mitchell because it's Jordan Clarkson. He's coming in off the bench. So it's one of those unfortunate circumstances, and it's kind of like the Chicago Bulls when we had those conversations when Lonzo Ball went down. You want Alex Caruso in that starting lineup, but Utah can't do it because then that bench is just going to be complete and utter trash. Joe Ingles tears his ACL. And I don't know about you, but for me, when Joe Ingles tore his ACL and they flipped him, I think they flipped him with a Portland trade, if I'm not mistaken. But it was one of those conversations where it felt like the last dance. And I hate saying that because there was no first dance. You know what I
No,
mean?
but
You just stood on the wall like a wallflower and just did your thing the entire time. But, it was that writing on the wall of, okay, Donovan's probably going to be out at the end of this year, especially if Snyder goes. But, we talk about that with the Bulls and just that conversation for you. The Bulls are obviously the number one defensive ranked team when healthy. And you have Lonzo Ball, you have Patrick Williams, who is a baby Jimmy Butler, a baby Kawhi Leonard defensively. Offensively hasn't found his stride yet, but he's only 20.
they don't need to.
Right. Yeah. It's just not it's not that it's not his game. It just hasn't had to be his game yet. It's not been thrown at him. You need to do this. Now, if this was the Bulls from years back, they probably would have been thrown like that. But, right now, when you look at this team as constructed, it's very similar to the Utah Jazz's. You have superstar defenders and Donovan can just be Donovan, but let's not be fooled. Donovan's an amazing defender. I feel like
Yes,
there's
100%.
moments where, he gets beat. But again, like you said, who's the big fella behind you getting paid 205? Go fix my mess. Like that's how it's supposed to be. But for you, if Donovan Mitchell were to land in the Chicago Bulls arena at the United Center, what is the expectation for you this current season?
And who just it just switched him and Levine,
I would say at best you lose Kobe White,
but you keep your draft picks.
but you keep everything.
Yeah, I'll tell you, y'all are Eastern Conference Finals.
100%. 100%.
Eastern
Coach,
Conference
I'm
Finals.
loving you today. I'm
Eastern
loving you
Conference,
today.
but because but you like I said it before. I said it earlier this year. I'm not sold on Milwaukee.
Right.
I'm not sold on Brooklyn because they're not Brooklyn's. They're stars. They can shoot. They can score, but they don't play any defense. They don't
Can
have.
I ask you this? How sold are you on Boston? Because when I look at Boston, and you can call me out if you want to, Coach, but I think you'll only go as far as Al Horford and other role players are going to allow you to go. I don't expect Al Horford to do this next year.
But you can say that. I don't. Here's why. I don't know because I think a lot of it is the coach.
Oh, an amazing coach.
And I know the reason
Amazing
I
coach.
say that because he's been there, he's done that. Like he was with Pop, so he's won championships,
Right.
and he lost championships. So he kind of been there, done that. When you had Brad Stevenson, don't get me wrong, he's probably a great mind with X's and O's, but he's never actually won. He's
Right.
never won with superstars. He never had to deal with superstars. Even going back into college, when he was at Butler, they weren't any superstars. Jordan Hayward was the only superstar he had.
Right.
So, but he won what he had. But he didn't win a big one. Like he gets you there.
But he got close,
Yeah. So I just think it's more so the coaching, man, because I think being under Pop for so long, but still not trying to be Pop, he's being himself,
Right.
and still running the way he wants to run it. He is the X factor of what they're doing.
Right. And
Because beforehand, I mean, you couldn't name the starting five for Boston.
No, not at all.
And then now these guys is like, but they know their role. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And I think that's the one thing about them. So, like right now, honestly, truthfully, if you get Mitchell, I have Boston, Chicago, Miami for the NBA Finals.
100%. I think that's definitely in the realm of possibility. But I know how much of a busy man you are, so we got a couple more left.
No, you good, man. We
Another
can
one though, I'm really confused about. I really don't know how I feel about it or where they really lie as a team and the future of this team. We're looking at right now one of the big favorites other than Miami. Obviously, we talked about Chicago second just because it was relevant to the conversation, but one of the X factors right now is the New York Knicks right now for Donovan Mitchell. They're still looking for that X factor superstar because RJ Barrett, like you said, we've had these conversations. He's there right on the cusp of kind of you're in between this. You can be a superstar, but you just haven't taken the reins yet. You're kind of just being like we said about Zach LaVine, reluctant to shoot the ball. You're giving it to Julius Randle. You're giving it to Kemba Walker at times or Evan Fournier. And I'm questioning why you're even doing that. You're giving it to my guy, Derrick Rose, like it's 2011 all over again. Like, shoot the shot, kid.
I think a lot of that goes back to coaching.
Right.
Like if you trade for Donovan Mitchell and you get to keep like that young talent, most of it. Honestly, I hate to say fire guys. You need somebody, a young live coach, to go with there with the Knicks to bring some excitement. Because one of the things I have noticed, because I stay in the South, man, so we don't watch we watch a few Knicks games, but we don't get to watch a lot of Knicks games.
I don't think Knicks fans watch Knicks games, Coach. It's all right.
A lot of them say that he doesn't let the young players play.
No, not at all. You think about your boy. Think about Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler on the Chicago Bulls, his first 2 years, played probably 10 minutes a game at best. At best. And it's just because he doesn't believe in that, you are the guy. Unless you are Derrick Rose, the prodigal son, he's going to allow him to play because you're a number one draft pick. But like you said, when you look at the Miami Heat as constructed, Tibbs isn't giving those guys a shot. The undrafted guys, the second round pick guys, and look how far they make it. A Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm not calling for Tibbs' head either, because I it's just not my style unless it's truly warranted. But it's one of those conversations where I think Tibbs really needs to evolve his game, and really just kind of take that next step, because I think he's fallen through the cracks of what the old age used to be, and what the game is now.
Yes. Yeah, I'm 100%. I think if he just, man, this is my big beliefs. It's like, we're not going to go far the way we've been doing it. What do we got to lose?
Right.
Let them learn and let them grow. And then you get that homegrown feeling. You know what I mean? It's just like, and that's what a lot of teams you want. You get the homegrown feeling, and then hopefully one of them might become a superstar, or you can actually get a superstar to come in, and now you got pieces around him.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things. But if Donovan Mitchell goes to New York, oh man, he will be the man. He will be a top 15, maybe 10 player in the game because he's in New York.
Right, 100%. But it's that conversation of, you kind of asked, Coach, what do you lose? And to tie that into a different conversation with it, what would New York have to lose in order to get someone like Donovan Mitchell? Because you look at Julius Randle at the age of almost 30, and you look at Cam Reddish, who, hasn't really been that guy that he was at Duke. He really wasn't even that guy at Duke when you really look at the film. He was that third option who was inconsistent. They've said he's lazy. His eating habits aren't good. There's a lot of X factors there with that. So what would you really say they have to give up, considering that RJ Barrett probably isn't in that conversation? What's worth it, you think? For Utah's trying to completely rebuild, why would they want a 30-year-old Randall? Why would they want Kemba Walker or Derrick Rose? To me, it would have to be very pick heavy.
It has to be. That's the only way. That's the only way, because I don't even think they would take a Randall, because he doesn't fit what they do. Right. But we sit here and we say they don't fit what they do. We don't even know what they're gonna do next year because they don't have a coach.
Right. 100%.
So it's kind of like you don't have an idea of what they're trying to do. And if you get to the point, if Utah says, "All right, we're gonna scrap it, and we're gonna trade Mitchell," now you pretty much you're in rebuild mode. So out of all these conversations, man, I don't even put the Knicks. If you say we're in rebuild mode, you want draft picks.
Right.
You want draft picks, maybe some expiring contracts, so you can get off your books. If if you're looking for a guard, you could go Boston. I'm sorry, Chicago.
Right.
But if you're looking for more, hey, still be competitive, still have a shot to make the playoffs, and we can get to our great white hope. We can go to Miami, and I can get 2 or 3 guys. We still
Right.
shoot the ball lights out, and we can go from there, which fits and has the look of what Utah wants.
Right.
Like
For
so,
you though, like what does that do for New York as constructed right now? Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with Mitchell Robinson and company, but if you could get away with just giving up like a Cam Reddish, a bunch of draft picks, Emmanuel Quickly, and you bring in Donovan Mitchell to this Knicks team, obviously you probably still have Derrick Rose, RJ Barrett, and company. Do you think that brings them? Obviously, they missed the playoffs. That brings them in the conversation of being in the playoffs. But how deep does that to returning to the Eastern Conference Finals?
oh, matchups. I just think it all depends on who they match up against. Honestly, like I think I think they can beat. They can beat or play with Boston.
Right.
Honestly, um, I don't think they play well against Miami just because Miami can throw a lot of people at them.
Right. I don't
Like
think they're big enough for Miami either.
yeah, like you could throw guys at Mitchell. If it's not Jimmy, you got Tucker. So you got a lot of guys you could pretty much throw at him on that. But I think they could be most. I think, honestly, truth, I really believe they could beat Boston because they match up firepower, but they can play the small game with Boston and
Right.
still be long and athletic. If that makes
Right.
sense.
No, 100%, 100%. We
But
got one last team. What were you gonna say, Coach?
if he goes to New York again, man, they make it to the second. They make it to the second round, maybe Western Conference Finals. My opinion. But I got it all depends on the matchups.
Right, and I also think it depends a lot on RJ Barrett and where his role and what he wants to do. There's also this big fella in New Orleans that potentially might want to go to New York, and if they were to completely scrap it, and Donovan Mitchell, RJ Barrett, Zion Williamson were to have a conversation, I think that's definitely something everybody should take a look at. But then
What?
again, though, I'm not going to touch too much on that because that's not my guy. I'm not a Zion fan. I'm not a Zion supporter. I respect his game or what was his game.
What is this game?
Duncan, that's it.
So, like when I looked at
I've never seen that man shoot a good ball from the perimeter. I've never seen him shoot a three consistently. I've never seen him be flashy. I just think he jumps out of the room and that's about it. I really that's truly how I see it.
when I look at him, and again, I didn't know they just picked it because of his name.
Yeah.
I would have picked John Morant.
I said the same thing. I said the same thing. And you know what though? Here's where it got twisted with me. You know, I said that, and you know exactly why I said that. Me and you have had conversations, but for everyone listening, you know, back in 2019, I said it clear as day. Once I found out who John Morant was, you know, when he was making noise in the playoffs, because I'm not gonna lie and sit like I knew him off rip. Once he made those noise, I forget the name of the school, Murray State, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Um,
it's double A.
yeah, once he started making that noise, I said, that's baby Derrick Rose. That is the man, the myth, the legend right there. That's what Derrick Rose was supposed to be. That's what a modern day Derrick Rose is. And I looked at Zion and I said, you know, the highlights are dope, you know, jumping out of the room, breaking shoes. That's all fine and dandy, but there
But
was nothing else I saw.
when I see Zion, he reminds me of Blake Griffin because
That's a good one.
that's what Blake Griffin did coming out of college. And
Right.
if you notice his game, and once he realized he couldn't jump no more, or didn't have the power anymore, now he became kind of a 3-point shooter. But that's when I looked at Zion, that's what I seen. And to me, it's more what can you bring to the table. Like Jason Tatum, I don't know why to this day, Lorenzo Ball, he's a good basketball player in the NBA, but I never would have picked him top 3. Jason Tatum. When I watch Jason Tatum play in college, it's like, oh man, this dude got some go. Like there's certain
Right.
guys you can tell, you be like, oh, they got some go. They got some.
Right. Lonzo's thing was the hype of Big
Yeah,
Baller Brand, of LeVar
yeah.
Ball.
His dad
And
did a
hey,
great job.
and I'll say this, shout out to LeVar Ball too. And I'll always say that because if it wasn't for what happened in China, I do believe he would have got LiAngelo Ball into the league as well. I don't think LiAngelo would have been any good. But I do think that he would have gotten all three of his
Yeah, but
sons
he
in
still
there.
got him
So
around. He's
oh, he's doing his thing. I was watching him in the Drew League. He's hooping for real, and he's really doing his thing. But
yeah.
you talked about dunkers, and this is a team full of them, but not much else. Our final team before we let the King of New York go back out there, the wild child himself.
That.
We're talking about Charlotte. It's one of the final destination spots that we've heard so far. One of the more realistic ones. Donovan Mitchell teaming up with LaMelo Ball, who obviously, to me, always has been the best ball brother. I think that that's a normal thing that happens. Usually the youngest brother is the best.
Yes.
Just because, they get their ass beat for the first 15, 16 years of their life by the older brothers. So they get the best of both worlds. I feel like he has the dog mentality of LiAngelo Ball, but he also has that intangible of being able to facilitate the floor just like Lonzo. And he's kind of cocky like LeVar, and I love that about him. He's got his own spunk to him. But I feel like the problem with LaMelo Ball, before we get into any of the trades, very childish. I feel like he doesn't take the game seriously. I feel like when you watch him during the All-Star game, and I understand it's the All-Star game, but just completely messing around, looking like a fool, not really caring during the playing games that he's played in. I feel like he has a little bit of growing to do. So teaming up with someone like Donovan Mitchell, for you, Coach, what does that backcourt look like 3 years down the line? One, LaMelo's 23, Donovan's 25, so they will grow together as men.
I think but it goes back to what is LaMelo, what do he want?
Right.
Like, is he trying to be a top 10 player right now, or is his focus is more the outside stuff, the commercials, the money, the fame? Because a lot of people, you can kind of, like you said, you can get your status either on the court or what you do off the court.
Right.
And for him, it's kind of one of those things. I don't know if it's still is legit serious yet for him, because he's still young. He's 23. I mean, he's been in the light at age 16, 17.
Right.
Like I said, I didn't know anything about it. It was crazy. I didn't know anything about him until when I was coaching, and the kids was like, "Oh, coach, he scored 100 points in a high school game." And I was like, "Man, this dude is trash. He's shooting these half courts." I said, "I would have slapped this dude if we was on the same team." But that's what's cool, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So and that's the thing about it. But again, it goes back to what I said earlier. It all depends on who's the coach.
Right.
Because you got to make sure your coach is, one, putting you in the best position to be successful. And if you look at right now, you take the NBA Finals, they got two good coaches. You go, if you even drop it down, you want to say the Western Conference and Eastern Conference, it was coaching. Dallas made it the farthest they made it. Why? Because Jason Kidd made great adjustments. And he evolved his offense, and he evolved the defense. And even another team that we just, like you said, Utah don't have a coach. Charlotte don't have a coach.
Right.
I mean, and would you want to? If I was Mitchell, I don't even think I want to be involved in all of that, because what's this? This has got to be what, the third coach in 4 years.
Something crazy. It's been a roller coaster, 100%, a revolving door of coaches.
Yeah. So it's like Michael Jordan, you ain't on the court. You suck in management. It is what it is.
No, 100%. I'm happy someone finally said it.
So, I mean, he does. I always said that. But that's one of those things for Mitchell is, do you really? And again, I don't know Mitchell like that. And I never really heard him talk about championships or anything else. Like, you guys talk about it when they have conversations. Mm-hmm. So is it for him is it the money? Is it the fame? Or is it the rings?
Right. Because at this point, it shows you, all right, you got the money. And Rudy got the money as well. But here's where I started to realize a difference between the two players is when Donovan got the money, and it wasn't the biggest, contract in history. It was only $163 million and some change. I think like 300,000 extra. Incentives, if he makes all NBA, I think it's like 193, something along those lines. But once Rudy got the 205, Rudy's just kicking it. You know, he's not winning Defensive Player of the Years anymore. He's not really doing anything else from an offensive production. And it's to the point where I feel like Donovan is showing you, I want to win, but this guy isn't showing it that he wants it. You know, we're seeing every time you watch a Rudy Gobert play, Coach, what is he doing? It's just under the rim, dunk, under the rim, dunk. There's nothing else to his game. And you know, there doesn't have to be. But a big part of it,
7'8". He's
tall. Like there doesn't. It's like 7'2", something crazy. You know, so it's that conversation though where I feel like you could see the frustration on one of them, and I feel like it's because Donovan cares. When I look at LaMelo Ball and I tie it back into your South Beach boy, I look at him just like Tyler Hero. I look at him just like, you know, the fame, the glory, the girls, the Instagram models. You get those messages at night with the verification check marks next to them of someone wanting to link with you. You know, celebrities want to be with you, and I think LaMelo Ball is still in that phase of life right now, and you know, obviously it's gotten Tyler Hero to the point of getting into trade conversations where I don't think Tyler's as talented as LaMelo Ball whatsoever. So obviously LaMelo might not be in those conversations because he's the greatest thing to happen to Charlotte since Kemba, really, and that wasn't much. But right now, when we look at this conversation as a whole, how is this even going to happen? How do you think there's anything Charlotte can give other than picks that Utah would even want, whether that's Kelly Oubre or a couple expiring deals?
It has to be expiring deals and draft picks. But I don't think Charlotte is in the running.
Yeah.
Because again, it's one of those things where you look at Utah and you be like, hey, we give them Charlotte. They're not gonna go far in the playoffs.
Right.
So we can get these picks and we can try to get talent and start over. Because that's it. I mean, that's all, because you're not getting anybody that's gonna say, you're talking about now Utah makes a drop. They're playing for a seed or out of the playoffs.
Right.
Because the West is not as strong. So then now by that happening, you're just gonna disappear. You're gonna be forgotten.
100%. And Coach, before we get out of here though, I do want to plug you in real quick. First of all, the new show that will be coming, we do not have an ETA on it, but let me ask you this. Coach, hosted by Coach Victor Bennett, will be coming to ASAP, all platforms near you. Super excited about that. But until then, where can everybody find you, your shows, your podcasts, anything else?
Oh man, I'm on Touchdown Crew on Sundays. July is when I'm gonna release my podcast. I'm gonna do my podcast. It's gonna be a little different thing. Dealing with some, just right now, it's just this month, a month of June has been really crazy busy for me. But July, I'm coming out with a podcast of my own. But anything the Touchdown Crew, where we talk about football, all depths about football. Yes, football is king. So that's why 365 days, 54 weeks out of the year, or whatever, 56 weeks. That's what we're gonna do every Sunday at 9 Central. Hey, check this out.
100%, and I will be on there during the NFL season. I have to say that because Charles has been killing me. I have a morning job, Charles, sir. I truly do apologize. I'll make time for y'all during the season, but I cannot talk about these AFL leagues. I just don't know enough about them. But, Coach, it's always an honor to have you on.
Man, without a doubt, man. It's been a minute, man, since I've been on.
It's been a long minute, and I can't wait to talk about Josh Allen all season long with you because, obviously, I will be trying to make an appearance on this Sunday's show of Touchdown Crew because we're talking about top 10 quarterbacks and a bunch of other great conversations.
This Sunday we're talking about everything, just pretty much dealing with quarterbacks, all the quarterback issues, which sophomore quarterback that's going to come out and have a big year. Like you said, top 10 quarterback. This is where, if you ever watched our show, we talk about a lot, superstar and a star.
Oh, it's the biggest. I feel like that's the biggest test of me and Coach. I feel like during basketball, you know, I'll agree with you here and there, and then it's like we have good conversations, but people leave upset. And it's usually me. I leave upset when it comes to the NFL on who's a superstar. But with that being said, this has been the All Sports All Plays Network. You can find us on all streaming platforms, on Twitch TV. You can find us on YouTube, wherever you can find us. Definitely check us out. You can find the morning show and 1,200 other shows throughout the week. This has been Victor Bennett and Mike Hughes. Peace out.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making up plays. We talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. Sport all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all play.